The massive space station floated in the darkness like a metal city among the stars. Nexus Prime stretched for miles in every direction, its surface covered with weapon platforms and docking bays. Inside the main command center, Admiral Kextar stood 8 feet tall on his powerful reptilian legs, his yellow eyes scanning the holographic displays that surrounded him. The alien commander's scaled hands moved across the control panel as he reviewed the latest intelligence reports. His species, the Zephyrians, had ruled this sector of space for over 300 years. Their empire controlled dozens of star systems, and their military might was legendary throughout the galaxy. Today, they would add another system to their collection. "Show me the target again," Kextar growled to his aide, a smaller Zephyrian named Sub-Commander Raxnil. The hologram shifted to display the Kepler system, a bright yellow star surrounded by 7 planets. The third planet gleamed, with rich mineral deposits that would fuel the Empire's war machine for generations. More importantly, the system sat at a strategic crossroads between 3 major trade routes. The surveys confirm massive deposits of quantum crystals on the surface, Raxnil reported. Our engineers estimate we could extract enough raw materials to build 50 new dreadnoughts within 5 years. Kextar nodded with satisfaction. The Zephyrian Empire needed those resources. Their ongoing conflicts with the rebel territories had drained their reserves, and this system would restore their military superiority. He turned his attention to the tactical display showing their assembled fleet. 312 warships hung in formation around Nexus Prime. The Zephyrians had brought their finest vessels, including the massive battleship destroyer of worlds, which could crack a planet's crust with a single volley. Alongside them floated the sleek ships of their allies from the Axiom Collective, their hulls gleaming with advanced energy shields. The third group belonged to the Ethereal Union, whose vessels seemed to shimmer and fade as their psionic crews manipulated space itself. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication station. "We have an update from our scouts in the Kepler system." Kextar turned toward the junior officer, a member of the Axiom Collective whose blue skin marked him as one of their technical specialists. "Report. Sir, our advanced teams have detected an unknown fleet approaching the system. They appear to be maintaining a standard patrol formation at the edge of the gravity well." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "How many ships?" 12 vessels, sir. All of them appear to be relatively small, no larger than our light cruisers. Our analysts believe they may be exploratory vessels from one of the minor species." Kextar laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. 12 ships? Some primitive species thinks they can claim what belongs to us? He turned to his tactical officer. "Do we have identification on these vessels?" The tactical officer, an ethereal whose pale features seemed to glow with inner light, consulted his readings. "The ships match no known configuration in our databases. However, intercepted communications suggest they belong to a species called humans." "Humans." Kextar rolled the word around his mouth like he was tasting something unpleasant. "I have heard whispers of this species. They come from a single world on the edge of civilized space. Their technology is primitive, and they have no significant military presence." Sub-Commander Raxnil stepped forward. "Sir, should we attempt to communicate with them? Perhaps offer them safe passage if they withdraw immediately?" The Admiral's tail lashed behind him, a sign of his growing irritation. "These humans think 12 small ships can challenge the combined might of 3 galactic powers. They will serve as an example to any other fools who might interfere with our expansion." He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "Attention all commanders. We have detected a minor obstruction in our target system. A small group of primitive vessels has wandered into our operational area. Squadron Leader Vorthak, take your cruiser group and remove this annoyance. Use minimum force necessary to destroy them quickly." From across the bridge, Captain Zephyra of the Ethereal Union spoke up. "Admiral, my scouts sense something unusual about these human vessels. Their crews radiate a strange confidence that seems inappropriate for their situation." Kextar waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Your people see mysteries where none exist. These humans probably do not even realize what they have stumbled into. Once they see our ships approaching, they will either flee or surrender." The bridge crew returned to their duties as Squadron Leader Vorthak acknowledged his orders. 15. Heavy cruisers broke away from the main fleet and jumped to hyperspace, their destination the edge of the Kepler system, where the human ships waited. Meanwhile, millions of miles away, Commander Jake Morris stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty. The human ship was smaller than the alien vessels heading toward them, its hull marked with the wear of long voyages. Morris was a career military officer, his graying hair and weathered face showing the stress of years spent in the void between stars. Any change in their formation? He asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Lisa Grant looked up from her console. No, sir. The main alien fleet is holding position around their command station. We're tracking 15 ships breaking away from their formation, heading directly for us. Morris nodded calmly. Time to intercept? Approximately 4 hours at their current speed, Grant replied. Chief Engineer Pete Collins wiped grease from his hands as he approached the command station. Sir, all systems are running at peak efficiency. The boys in engineering have been working around the clock to make sure we're ready. Good work, Pete. Morris turned to his communications officer. Amy, any word from Fleet Command? Communications. Specialist Amy Rodriguez shook her head. Nothing on the standard channels, sir. We're maintaining radio silence as ordered. Morris walked to the main viewing port and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a massive alien fleet prepared to claim this system for their empire. They probably thought the 12 human ships were nothing more than a minor inconvenience, something to be swept aside without a second thought. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. All hands, this is the captain speaking, Morris announced over the ship's internal communication system. We knew this day would come eventually. We've trained for years, and now it's time to show the galaxy what humans can do when we're backed into a corner. Remember your training, trust your shipmates, and let's give these aliens something to really worry about. As the alien squadron jumped toward their position, the 12 human ships continued their patrol, waiting with the patience of predators who knew their prey was coming to them. Squadron Leader Vorthak sat in the command chair of his heavy cruiser, the Blood Talon. Around him, 14 other Zephyrian warships moved through hyperspace toward their target. Each vessel measured over 1,000 feet in length and carried enough firepower to level a city. Vorthak had served in the Imperial fleet for 30 years, and this mission seemed like the easiest assignment of his career. Dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds, announced his navigation officer. Vorthak straightened in his chair and activated the tactical display. All ships, maintain attack formation. We will give these humans one chance to surrender before we destroy them. The squadron emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Immediately, their sensors detected the 12 human vessels arranged in a loose defensive pattern near the fourth planet. The alien ships were massive compared to the human fleet, their dark hulls bristling with weapon arrays and shield generators. Open a communication channel, Vorthak ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the human flagship. A middle-aged man in a simple military uniform stood at the center, his hands clasped behind his back. Several other humans worked at control stations around him, their movements calm and precise. I am Squadron Leader Vorthak of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet, the alien commander announced. You are trespassing in space claimed by the Zephyrian Empire and our allies. You have 1 minute to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we will destroy your ships. The human commander stepped forward slightly. I'm Commander Jake Morris of the United Earth Fleet. This system belongs to no one yet, and we have as much right to be here as you do. I suggest you turn around and head back where you came from. Vorthak's yellow eyes widened in disbelief. Behind him, several of his bridge crew began making the clicking sounds that served as Zephyrian laughter. The sound echoed across the communication channel as news of the human response spread to the other ships in the squadron. Did this primitive just tell us to leave? Vorthak asked his tactical officer, still clicking with amusement. Scan their ships. I want to see what sort of weapons these insects think they can use against us. The sensor readings appeared on his display. The human ships carried basic energy weapons, missile launchers, and what appeared to be kinetic projectile systems. Nothing that could penetrate the advanced shields of a Zephyrian heavy cruiser. Commander Morris, Vorthak said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Your weapons cannot harm our vessels. Our shields alone are more advanced than your entire fleet. This is your final warning." Morris shook his head. "I'm afraid we can't do that. This system has resources that humanity needs, and we're not backing down. If you want to fight, you'll get one." The communication channel closed. Vorthak stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his weapons officer. "Target their flagship. Destroy it with a single plasma burst. Let the others see. What happens to those who defy the Empire?" The Blood Talon's main cannon charged with a deep humming sound that vibrated through the ship's hull. A massive bolt of superheated plasma streaked across space toward the UES Liberty. The weapon carried enough energy to vaporize a small asteroid. Instead of striking its target, the plasma bolt dissipated against some kind of energy barrier surrounding the human ship. The Liberty barely shuddered from the impact. "What?" Vorthak roared. "How did they block that shot?" His sensor officer frantically worked at his console. "Sir, their shields are unlike anything in our database. The energy seems to be dispersed through some kind of distributed network." Before Vorthak could respond, the human fleet opened fire. Instead of the crude weapons their scans had suggested, streams of coherent energy beams lanced out from the human ships. The beams moved differently than conventional weapons, seeming to curve and adjust their paths mid-flight. 3 of the Zephyrian cruisers took direct hits. Their shields flared and collapsed under the sustained bombardment. Secondary explosions ripped through their hulls as the human weapons found weak points that should have been impossible to target at such range. "How are they penetrating our defenses?" Vorthak demanded. Chief Engineer Pete Collins stood at his station aboard the Liberty, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. "Adaptive targeting systems are working perfectly," he reported to Commander Morris. "Their shield frequencies are changing, but our computers are staying ahead of them." Morris nodded. "What's our damage report?" "Minor hull scoring on the Defiance, but all systems are operational. Their weapons are powerful, but they're not designed to deal with our distributed shielding. The human defensive system was revolutionary. Instead of relying on single massive shield generators like the aliens, human ships used hundreds of smaller projectors that could reroute power instantly. When one section was overloaded, the others compensated automatically." "Lieutenant Lisa," Grant looked up from her tactical station. "Sir, 3 alien ships are heavily damaged. The others are regrouping for another attack." "Let them come," Morris replied calmly. Vorthak watched in horror as 2 more of his ships exploded under human fire. The remaining alien vessels tried to close the distance, hoping to use their superior size and armor in close combat. Instead, they found the human ships impossibly agile, sliding between their formations like dancers avoiding clumsy partners. "Sir, we've lost 7 ships," his tactical officer reported. "The humans are using some kind of predictive targeting system. They seem to know where we're going before we do." The truth was simpler than the aliens realized. Human military doctrine emphasized speed and flexibility over raw power. Every human ship captain had trained for years in 3-dimensional combat, learning to think in terms of momentum and vectors rather than simple straight-line attacks. "Captain," Vorthak made a desperate decision. "All remaining ships focus fire on their smallest vessel. Concentrate everything we have." 8 heavy cruisers turned their weapons on the UES Ranger, a destroyer at the edge of the human formation. Dozens of plasma bolts and energy beams converged on the single target. The Ranger's shields held for 3 seconds before failing. The ship took several hits to its hull, sending debris spinning into space. But instead of exploding, the vessel continued fighting, its weapons still firing with deadly accuracy. "Impossible," Vorthak whispered. "That ship should be destroyed." He didn't understand human engineering philosophy. Where alien ships relied on single critical systems, human vessels were built with redundancy in mind. Backup power, secondary weapon mounts, and emergency life support meant that a human ship could continue operating even after taking damage that would cripple other designs. The battle continued for another 10 minutes. When it ended, 12 Zephyrian heavy cruisers had been reduced to drifting wreckage. Only 3 alien ships remained intact, their crews scrambling to escape the system. Vorthak's damaged cruiser limped toward the hyperspace jump point, his bridge filled with smoke and sparks from overloaded systems. He activated the emergency communication system to contact Admiral Kekstar. "Admiral," he gasped, his voice weak from blood loss. "The humans, they're not what we expected. Request immediate reinforcement. These are not primitive vessels." The transmission cut out as the surviving alien ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving the human fleet alone among the wreckage of their enemies. Admiral Kekstar paced back and forth across the command deck of Nexus Prime, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. The emergency report from Squadron Leader Vorthak had reached him 2 hours ago, and he still could not believe what he had heard. 12 small ships had destroyed most of an entire squadron of heavy cruisers. "Show me the tactical recordings again," he ordered his intelligence officer. The holographic display activated, showing the battle from multiple angles. Kekstar watched as human weapons somehow penetrated Zephyrian shields that had never been breached before. He saw his ships exploding while the human vessels danced between the plasma bolts like they could predict where each shot would go. "Analysis?" Kekstar demanded. Commander Zethra of the Axiom Collective stepped forward, her blue skin pale with worry. "Admiral, their technology appears more advanced than our initial assessment suggested. Their defensive systems use principles we have never encountered." "That is impossible," Kekstar growled. "Our intelligence networks monitor every species in this sector. The humans have never shown capabilities like this." Captain Morden of the Ethereal Union floated slightly above the deck, his ethereal form shimmering. "My people sense deception, Admiral. These humans hide something from us. There are layers to their presence here that we cannot penetrate." Kekstar turned to his tactical display showing the current positions in the Kepler system. The 12 human ships maintained their patrol pattern, apparently undamaged from their encounter with his squadron. It made no sense. Even if they had won, they should have taken some casualties. "Prepare Battle Group 7, he commanded. 60 ships, including 4 heavy battlecruisers. I want overwhelming firepower brought to bear on these humans." Subcommander Raxneal looked up from his station. "Sir, perhaps we should attempt communication first. If they possess unknown technology, we might learn more through negotiation." "No," Kekstar snapped. "They destroyed Imperial vessels. They must pay the price for their arrogance. Send the fleet." 3 hours later, Battle Group 7 dropped out of hyperspace near the human formation. Captain Thexnor commanded the group. From his flagship, the massive battlecruiser Wrath of Stars. The vessel stretched nearly 2 miles from bow to stern and carried enough weapons to level the surface of a planet. "Human vessels," Thexnor broadcast on all frequencies. "You are surrounded and outnumbered 5 to 1. Surrender immediately or face complete destruction." On the bridge of the UES Liberty, Commander Morris turned to his communications officer. "Any response from Fleet Command?" Amy Rodriguez shook her head. "Still maintaining radio silence, sir. We're on our own." Morris walked to the tactical display where Lieutenant Lisa Grant was studying the alien formation. "What do you think, Lisa?" "They're using a standard encirclement pattern, sir. 60 ships arranged in a sphere around our position. Classic textbook approach." Morris smiled grimly. "Then they're about to get a lesson in why textbooks don't always work in real combat." He activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands prepare for Phase 2 implementation. This is not a drill." Captain Nina Hayes stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, the second largest ship in the human fleet. She had been waiting for this moment since they first detected the alien forces approaching. "Engineering, are all drone systems ready for deployment?" Chief Engineer Ray Thompson answered from the engine room. "All systems green, Captain. Drone bays are loaded and ready to launch on your command." The alien fleet began moving into attack formation, their massive ships positioning themselves for a coordinated assault. Captain Thexnor felt confident in his superiority. 60 advanced warships against 12 primitive vessels seemed like an easy victory. "All ships, commence firing," he ordered. Hundreds of plasma bolts and energy beams streaked toward the human formation. The aliens expected to see the small fleet vaporized in the opening salvo. Instead, something impossible happened. The space around the 12 human ships suddenly filled with movement. Hundreds of small objects burst from concealed bays on each vessel, spreading out in all directions like a metallic cloud. Within seconds, the human fleet had grown from 12 ships to over 400 individual units. "What are those?" Thexnor demanded, staring at his tactical display in confusion. His sensor officer worked frantically at his console. "Sir, they appear to be automated fighters. Each human ship was carrying dozens of them in hidden launch bays. The drone fighters were unlike anything in the alien databases. Each unit was no larger than a shuttle, but they moved with precision that no living pilot could match. They accelerated at forces that would kill organic crew members and changed direction in ways that defied conventional physics." Commander Morris watched the tactical display as his drone swarms engaged the alien fleet. "How are our little friends performing, Lisa?" Lieutenant Grant smiled as she monitored the battle. "Better than expected, sir. The aliens are trying to target them individually, but the drones are using networked coordination. Every time they destroy one, 5 others adapt to counter their tactics. The drone fighters attacked in coordinated waves, their movements resembling flocks of birds or schools of fish. When alien weapons destroyed several drones, the survivors immediately adjusted their attack patterns. They learned from each loss and shared that knowledge instantly with every other unit in the swarm." Captain Thexnor watched in growing horror as his ships took damage from weapons too small to be considered a serious threat. The tiny human fighters slipped between his defensive fire, targeting weak points in his ship's armor with surgical precision. Their weapons were not individually powerful, but hundreds of small hits began to add up. "Sir, the Destroyer of Hope is reporting critical damage to their main reactor," his communications officer announced. "The Shadow of Victory has lost primary weapons control." "How is this possible?" Thexnor roared. "They are just small fighters." On the UES Resolute, Engineer Ray Thompson explained the principle to his crew as they monitored the battle. "The aliens think in terms of individual ship superiority. Big ships, big guns, big shields. But humans learned long ago that sometimes many small units working together can defeat a few large ones. The drone swarms demonstrated this principle perfectly. They surrounded each alien ship like angry insects, attacking from multiple angles, simultaneously. When the aliens focused their fire on one group of drones, others would attack from behind or below. The constant pressure never let up. Captain Nina Hayes coordinated the overall battle from her command chair. Drones 7 through 15 concentrate on their flagship. Drones 20 through 30 target their communications array. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, 15 alien ships had been destroyed outright, and 20 more were so heavily damaged they could barely maintain life support. The remaining vessels retreated in disorder, their commanders finally understanding that they faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Captain Thexnor transmitted his final report as his damaged flagship limped toward the hyperspace jump point. "Admiral Kextar, the humans have deceived us all. What appeared to be 12 ships was actually a fleet of hundreds. They used tactics we have never seen. Request immediate strategic withdrawal." On Nexus Prime, Admiral Kextar stared at the tactical reports with growing dread. His forces had lost nearly 80 ships to an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. The humans had revealed only part of their capabilities, and already they had proven more dangerous than anyone had imagined. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All forces prepare for full deployment. We end this threat now, before it can spread beyond this system." Admiral Kextar stood before the massive tactical display in the main command center of Nexus Prime. 312 warships hung in formation around the command station, representing the combined might of 3 galactic civilizations. The largest fleet ever assembled in this sector of space prepared to move against 12 human vessels. "All ships report ready for hyperspace jump," announced Sub-Commander Raxnil. Kextar nodded grimly. "Signal the fleet. We jump in 30 minutes. I want this human threat eliminated permanently." The Admiral had spent the past 6 hours reviewing every scrap of intelligence about the species called humans. They came from a single world on the edge of known space, a planet they called Earth. According to all reports, They had only recently developed faster-than-light travel. Their technology should have been centuries behind the galactic powers. Yet somehow, these primitive beings had destroyed nearly 80 of his finest ships. "Admiral," called out the communications officer, "we are receiving a priority message from our deep space monitoring stations." "Display it." The holographic screen activated, showing a Zephyrian intelligence officer stationed at a listening post near the edge of the system. The officer's scales were pale with fear. "Admiral, we are detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching the Kepler system. Multiple contacts bearing directly for the human fleet's position." Kekstar's yellow eyes narrowed. "How many contacts?" "Sir, initial count shows at least 150 separate hyperspace signatures. They appear to be large vessels, possibly capital ships." The command center fell silent. Every officer stared at the display, trying to process what they had just heard. 150 ships meant the humans had a fleet larger than anything the intelligence services had ever detected. "That is impossible," Commander Zethra of the Axiom Collective said, her blue skin turning an even paler shade. "Our monitoring networks would have detected a fleet of that size." Captain Morden of the Ethereal Union floated near the tactical display, his ethereal form shimmering with agitation. "The humans have hidden their true strength from us. This small fleet was not an advance force. It was bait." In the Kepler system, Commander Morris stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching his long-range sensors detect the approaching hyperspace signatures. His calm expression never changed, even as his crew prepared for what would either be humanity's greatest victory or its final battle. "Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Sullivan," reported communications specialist Amy Rodriguez. The main screen activated, showing a woman in her 50s wearing the uniform of a fleet admiral. Her gray hair was pulled back severely, and her blue eyes held the cold determination of someone who had spent decades planning for this moment. "Jake, good to see you're still in one piece," Admiral Kate Sullivan said from the bridge of her flagship. "How are our alien friends treating you?" Morris smiled slightly. "They've been very educational, ma'am. We've learned quite a bit about their tactical doctrine and weapons capabilities." "Excellent. Are you ready for the main event?" "All drone systems are recharged and ready for deployment. The enemy fleet numbers over 300 ships, but they're using standard formation tactics, nothing we haven't prepared for." Admiral Sullivan nodded. "Understood. All ships, prepare for emergence from hyperspace. We're about to show the galaxy what happens when you pick a fight with humanity." The space around the human reconnaissance fleet suddenly erupted with hyperspace portals. Ship after ship emerged from faster-than-light travel, their hulls gleaming with fresh armor and weapons systems. The UES Titan led the formation, a massive battleship that dwarfed even the largest alien vessels. Behind the flagship came heavy cruisers, destroyers, assault carriers, and support vessels. Each ship carried its own complement of drone fighters, electronic warfare systems, and weapons designed specifically for ship-to-ship combat. The human fleet had grown from 12 vessels to over 180 warships in a matter of minutes. Captain Steve Parker stood on the bridge of the battleship UES Thunder, watching his tactical display update as more ships emerged from hyperspace. His vessel alone carried enough firepower to level a city, and it was just one of 15 battleships in the human fleet. "Sir, all ships report ready for combat operations," his tactical officer announced. Parker nodded. "Signal Admiral Sullivan. The Thunder is ready to show these aliens what human engineering can really do." On the command deck of the UES Titan, Admiral Sullivan reviewed the tactical situation. The alien fleet had stopped their advance toward the reconnaissance force and was now trying to reorganize their formation to deal with the much larger human presence. "Communications, open a channel to the alien flagship," she ordered. The screen showed Admiral Kekstar on the bridge of his command ship, his reptilian features twisted with rage and disbelief. Behind him, alien officers worked frantically at their stations, trying to understand how their intelligence had been so completely wrong. "I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the United Earth Fleet," she announced calmly. "You have attacked human vessels without provocation and threatened our legitimate claims to this system. You have 72 hours to withdraw all forces beyond the outer system boundary. Kextar's voice came through the translator with barely controlled fury. "You dare to make demands of the Zephyrian Empire? We have over 300 ships," Sullivan smiled coldly. "And I have 180 ships, each one designed by a species that has been at war with itself for over 5,000 years. Your vessels are built to fight other civilized species who follow rules of engagement. Our ships are built to kill everything they encounter as efficiently as possible." The transmission continued as Admiral Sullivan began revealing the true scope of human preparations. The reconnaissance fleet had not been sent to claim the system. They had been sent to gather intelligence on alien military capabilities, while a much larger force prepared for full-scale colonization. "You see, Admiral," Sullivan continued, "humanity doesn't do things halfway. When we decided to expand beyond our home system, we didn't send a few ships to explore. We sent colony fleets, mining equipment, terraforming vessels, and military escorts. This system will become New Terra, the first major human settlement outside Earth space." On his command screen, Kextar could see additional ships emerging from hyperspace. These were not warships, but massive civilian vessels carrying everything needed to establish a permanent human presence. Colony ships, manufacturing platforms, and construction vessels began moving toward the inner planets. Colonel Lisa Morgan appeared on a secondary communication channel, reporting from one of the troop transports. "Admiral, advanced teams have already established defensive positions on the third planet. Ground-based defense platforms are online and ready to support fleet operations." Admiral Sullivan turned back to face Kextar. "As you can see, this is not a raid or a quick strike. This is a permanent expansion of human territory. You can choose to withdraw peacefully, or you can discover why a species that domesticated wolves and called them pets has never lost a war when our survival was at stake." Kextar cut the communication channel and turned to his fleet commanders. The tactical display showed the true scope of what they faced. The humans had not just brought warships. They had brought an entire civilization, ready to plant itself in this system and defend it to the death. "Sir," Sub-Commander Raxneal said quietly, "perhaps we should consider withdrawal. This is not what we prepared for." "No," Kextar snarled. "The Empire does not retreat from primitives no matter how many ships they bring. Signal all vessels. We attack in 1 hour. Show these humans the price of defying galactic civilization." As both fleets prepared for the largest space battle in recorded history, Admiral Sullivan made one final preparation. She opened a secure communication channel to Earth, sending a simple message that would be remembered for centuries. "Phase 1 complete. The aliens have taken the bait. Beginning Phase 2 operations. Recommend all colonies prepare for full expansion protocol. Humanity is no longer confined to a single world." The two fleets faced each other across the void of space like ancient armies preparing for battle. Admiral Kextar's combined force of 312 ships formed a massive wall of metal and energy, their hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Across from them, Admiral Sullivan's human fleet arranged itself in a formation that seemed almost casual by comparison. "All ships, commence attack," Kextar commanded. The alien fleet opened fire as one unit. Thousands of plasma bolts, energy, beams, and quantum torpedoes streaked across space toward the human formation. The barrage was so intense that it turned the darkness between the fleets into a blazing river of destructive energy. The human response was immediate and devastating. Instead of trying to block the incoming fire, the human ships scattered like leaves in a storm. Each vessel moved on a different vector, their courses seemingly random but perfectly coordinated. The alien weapons, aimed at where the human ships had been, struck empty space. Admiral Sullivan watched the tactical display from the bridge of the UES Titan. "All ships, implement pattern Delta 7. Ground stations, you are cleared to engage." What the aliens had not known was that Major Tom Bradley and his advanced teams had been working on the system's planets for weeks before the fleets arrived. Hidden beneath the surface of 3 different worlds, massive defense platforms rose from concealed bunkers. These ground-based weapons had been waiting for this moment. The planetary defense systems opened fire, sending streams of hypervelocity projectiles toward the alien fleet. The weapons used no exotic energy or advanced physics. They simply accelerated chunks of dense metal to incredible speeds using electromagnetic launchers. The projectiles moved so fast that alien sensors barely detected them before impact. Captain Ron Fisher commanded the heavy cruiser UES Vengeance as it led a direct assault on the alien flagship. His ship had been built for one purpose: to close with enemy vessels and destroy them at point-blank range. The Vengeance carried armor thick enough to absorb massive punishment and weapons designed to penetrate any defense. "Target their command ship," Fisher ordered his weapons officer. "All power to forward guns." The Vengeance charged straight through the alien formation, its hull glowing red from enemy fire. Plasma bolts that would have vaporized most ships merely scorched its armor. The human ship returned fire with its main batteries, sending tungsten shells at nearly the speed of light directly into the alien flagship's bridge. Admiral Kextar felt his command ship shudder as human weapons punched through shields that had never failed before. Emergency lights flashed across his bridge as systems overloaded and failed. Through the smoke and sparks, he saw something that filled him with terror. The human ships were not trying to preserve themselves. They fought with a reckless abandon that no civilized species would accept. Ships with damaged hulls continued attacking until their reactors exploded. Crews trapped in sections exposed to space kept firing their weapons until they died at their posts. "Sir, we are losing ships faster than projected," Sub-Commander Raxnil reported, his voice shaking with fear. "The humans accept casualty rates that would cause any sane military to retreat." Lieutenant Commander Sandy White coordinated the drone swarms from her position aboard the UES Defiant. Her screens showed thousands of small fighters engaging the alien fleet in coordinated attacks. The drones moved like flocks of predatory birds, each unit supporting the others in complex patterns that the alien computers could not predict. "Drone, Group Alpha, concentrate on their heavy battleships," she commanded. "Beta Group, take out their communications arrays. Charlie Group, protect our damaged vessels." The drone fighters swarmed over alien ships like antibodies attacking an infection. When the aliens destroyed one group, two more would appear from different angles. The small fighters could not destroy the massive alien vessels alone, but they could blind their sensors, jam their communications, and strip away their defensive systems. Captain Steve Parker watched from the bridge of the UES Thunder as his battleship exchanged fire with 3 alien dreadnoughts simultaneously. His ship was taking severe damage, but its human crew continued fighting with cold efficiency. "Engineering, reroute power from life support to weapons," Parker ordered. "Sir, that will mean death for anyone in the damaged sections," his chief engineer warned. "Do it anyway. The mission comes first." This was the crucial difference between human and alien military philosophy. The alien crews fought to preserve their ships and their lives. The human crews fought to complete their mission, regardless of personal cost. When an alien ship took critical damage, its crew would attempt to withdraw and save what they could. When a human ship faced destruction, its crew would try to take as many enemies with them as possible. The battle raged for 6 hours. Alien ships that had ruled space for centuries found themselves outmaneuvered by vessels designed by a species that had learned warfare in the gravity wells of planets. Human tactics that seemed suicidal by galactic standards proved devastatingly effective against opponents who valued survival over victory. Admiral Kextar watched his fleet dissolve around him. Over 200 ships had been destroyed or so badly damaged they could no longer fight. The human fleet had taken heavy casualties as well, but their remaining ships continued pressing the attack with mechanical precision. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "Captain Mordun of the Ethereal Union is requesting permission to withdraw his surviving ships." Kextar looked at his tactical display one final time. His mighty fleet, the pride of 3 civilizations, had been broken by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The humans had not won through superior technology or numbers. They had won because they understood something that the galaxy had forgotten. War was not about who had the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons. War was about who was willing to pay the highest price for victory. "Signal all remaining ships," Kextar said, his voice hollow with defeat. "General withdrawal. Abandon the system." The surviving alien vessels turned away from the battle and jumped to hyperspace, leaving the field to the humans. On the bridge of the UES Titan, Admiral Sullivan accepted status reports from her fleet commanders. They had lost 43 ships and over 15,000 crew members, but they had achieved their objective. Communications, send a message to all galactic powers, Sullivan ordered. The Kepler system is now under human control. Any attempt to interfere with our colonization efforts will be met with the same response you have witnessed here today. She paused, then added words that would echo through the galaxy for generations. We are humanity. We came from a world where every species that survived learned to fight or learned to die. We domesticated predators and made them our companions. We built cities on the ruins of our enemies and called it civilization. We are not like you, and that is why we will inherit the stars. 6 months later, Admiral Jake Morris stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station, watching construction ships transform the third planet of the Kepler system into humanity's first major colony beyond Earth. The galaxy had indeed learned that appearances could be deceiving. The small fleet that everyone had laughed at had opened the door to humanity's future among the stars. Other alien civilizations now approached with diplomatic messages instead of threats, having learned the price of underestimating a species that had turned warfare into an art form. Morris smiled as he watched human children playing in the station's recreation areas, the first generation to be born as citizens of a truly interstellar civilization. The laughter that had once mocked humanity's small fleet had been replaced by something far more valuable: respect earned through strength and the knowledge that humanity had finally taken its place among the stars.